Welcome, everybody, to another edition of A Conversation With here on Severe MMA's YouTube page. I am Spencer Kite, friendly neighborhood Spencer man, and I am, listen, I start all of these by saying I'm super excited and they're a big deal to me, but this one means a little more, and here's why. As you can see, I am joined by the wonderfully talented UFC multi-hyphenate Megan Olivi, and this one means a bit more because while Megan and I didn't really 100% start at the same time, we've kind of come up together. Megan has been a friend, a mentor, someone that will listen to my ranting and raving and complaining for a dozen years now. And to see her journey has been absolutely amazing for me. And so to get to sit here and talk to her and talk to you guys about some of that and many other things, it's an absolute honor. So thanks for doing this.
Oh my God. Thank you. I feel like I'm going to cry already. You're the man.
Hey, I mean, listen, I gotta give the due. I gotta give the props.
Very kind.
I remember the days of heavy MMA when we're both starting out and we're running through fight day rehearsals and I'm playing every fighter that's going to show up on set, and you're pretending to interview audience members that aren't anywhere there yet. And we both kind of thought, man, one day it's going to be better than this, right? And lo and behold, one day it's better than this. So here we are.
Exactly. I was just pretending to know what I was doing, you know.
Me too. Me too. And here we are. Now we know a couple of things.
Yeah.
So we start this the same way every week. How and when did you fall in love with combat sports?
I have loved combat sports, I think, since I can remember. If we're counting wrestling in that, I mean, my earliest memories are literally on a wrestling mat. And I have just loved wrestling and boxing since a very, very, very young age because I had family members that actively participated in those sports. And so I can't really remember what life was like without, a wrestling mat in my basement or watching, boxing fights on TV in my house. So, I mean, literally my husband's wearing my here, come here, my brother's Team Pennsylvania jacket right now.
Nice.
Because that's just, that's just
Joe.
who we were as a family. Could you not do that? It sounds like really gross, but it's just our water. But yeah, so I feel like I've just always loved it and respected it. And where I'm from is a wrestling community. It's the number one sport that there is. And so I think there's just always been appreciation if you're from that area in general, and to have family that actively, did all of it was astounding for me and really shaped who I became as a person.
Did little Megan mix it up a little bit? Were the family members teaching you how to throw a jab and shoot a double and stuff?
Oh my God, my takedowns. I have some photos. Yeah, they're crazy. But I remember I specifically had sets of friends like the Giordano boys. We'd always, whenever breaks in the tournament, we'd all go wrestle. There were some fun refs. There was a ref named Tony that everybody loved because he could do backflips and stuff, and he would ref our matches during the break. But it was great. And I say this a lot, and I don't know if I'm articulating it as well as I wish that I could, but I feel like because I grew up in that environment, I also grew up with a lot of respect for myself. And, I was always surrounded by guys and boys who were older than me. My brother's 10 years older than me. So I was going to all his practices and everything. And I would, do all the cardio with him and the push-ups and everything. But through that environment, I really learned a respect for myself and not, ever trying to impress a boy or impress this or that. Just be myself because they were all my friends and they showed me respect for that situation. So I never felt like I had to overcompensate in other areas. And I do feel like that played a big role in who I became as an adult because I never was seeking different things out. I always was just very content with who I was and the relationships that I had.
And then when did you know that broadcasting was what you wanted to do? What was the thing that clicked for you or triggered it for you that this is where I want to go?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I went to college for political science, and it might have been the end of my junior year, but probably the beginning of my senior year as Benny makes an appearance this way. Okay.
We got to make sure we get Benny in.
Yeah. I was just always talking about the Yankees and the Giants. The Yankees are my first love in life. I was a diehard Yankees fan. I still am. And I would always talk to people at my internship about sports, whatever game happened the night before, trades, whatever. And they were like, why are you going into politics? Like, why aren't you doing
Right.
this? Clearly, this is your passion. And I say this often, but like, it wasn't that I didn't think I could do it or anything like that. It did not even register as an option for me. I grew up watching Sidelines reporters. It wasn't like it wasn't in front of me. I just never really put two and two together that could actually be me. And I could do what I like to talk about for a living. So once it clicked, I was like, oh yeah, hard pivot. So I finished my degree and then I got my master's, of course, to make sure that I did have a degree to back up what I wanted to do, because there's a million people who want to work in sports broadcasting. And, I figured that out a little bit later than a lot of them. A lot of people know what college they're going to because they pick, a broadcasting school, or they go somewhere that has all of that. I picked a school because that was by New York City, so I could intern, because I thought I was going to go into politics. So it was just like a lot of different things for me that once it really clicked, the path was very clearly, laid out in my mind. It was, okay, get another degree to back this up and then take any jobs that come to you.
Who were some of those early role models, or even just before you decided to pivot in, who were some of the people you looked at and were like, she kicks ass, they kick ass?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think any woman who is covering sports on television is doing a phenomenal job. And especially, I'm old, so I got my master's in 2010. That was 12 years ago or whatever it may be. And there weren't as many women in sports coverage as there are now. And so, I vividly remember watching Pam Oliver and, being so impressed by her on the sidelines, and, people like Michelle Tafoya, Erin Andrews, when I got a little bit older, and Michelle Beadle. I really, really looked up to Michelle Beadle because I thought she was still so very much herself.
Right.
And held a conversation about really anything in sports so well with every male colleague that she had. So those were some of my earlier memories of people who I just thought were doing a phenomenal job. And again, the women in sports role has grown, but to be able to envision myself there because of them was, massively important.
And then when did MMA become a target? When did progressing to working for the UFC become sort of the zone in on this is the lane I want to go down?
Well, MMA didn't necessarily become a target for me until I got offered the job with Heavy. I was doing MMA coverage in New York City, but I was also doing lots of other things. I was doing lacrosse and poker and just random events wherever I could get hired, whether I was being paid or not. It was experience for me. And, did I want to work for the New York Yankees immediately? Of course I did. But hello, no.
Right.
So the MMA opportunity was one that came at a perfect time. I felt very comfortable in the space because I just wrote about this on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. Frankie Edgar was the first fighter I worked with. And I actually knew of Frankie from college wrestling.
Right.
And so I was very comfortable. I was like, oh, okay, I got this. He made me feel extremely comfortable. I will forever be grateful for the way Frankie treated me from the first moment on. And so all the fighters I had interacted with, I was like, oh, this is like my regular life. This is like who I was when I was 5 years old, And so that job offer came with Heavy. I was living in New York City. I had just finished my master's. I was poor as poor can be. I stole coffee, breakfast, and lunch. And sometimes I would steal snacks to have for dinner from the office that I worked at. And it was like, I'm going to move to Vegas and at least try. It was more money, but that money translates so differently in Nevada than it does to New York City. And I had known Joseph at the time, and I was like, well, let's see, it's closer to him. And I remember my parents were devastated. My friends' parents were like, how could you? But I just had to try because it felt really, really comfortable to me. And I felt like, man, I think I can do things here, because while I was terrified and faking it for the majority of, my early career, I did feel like I think I can make a space for myself where I belong.
Before you actually really did truly make that space, you pressed pause for a little bit. And I don't know if people remember this. I mean, I know it because we're friends and we've we've known each other this whole time, but you pressed pause and said, I'm going to go to San Diego. I'm going to work for the Padres on their broadcast. You were there for a season. Walk me through that decision, because that's a thing that a lot of people like. That's a tough one to say.
Yeah.
This is the space I want to be in, and I know where I want to go, but it's not working right now, and I need to go do something different.
Yeah, things were just interesting at that point because Heavy had lost the deal with the UFC. So for those who are watching this and maybe don't know the way we intimately knew it, Heavy was essentially hired to be the UFC's pre and post fight show for pay-per-views before there was a TV deal. So we would all be a part of this big pre-show called Fight Day, and then we would do some post-fight coverage as well. And it was a really big deal. It was streaming. It was sort of progressive for the time and the space. Technologically, we had issues every show, but we got there.
Yep.
And they lost that deal. And I vividly remember being told that I would never be taken seriously if I didn't ever work in the Big Four. And I, was well educated. I was working super hard. I mean, man, you can attest to how hard we were working and nonstop and events and every day. And even if it was a day off, you can't be off. You know what I mean? So I just felt like I'm doing all of this and no one's still going to take me seriously. Like, okay, I've got to fix it. And so, like I said, the Yankees were my first love. So I got this interview in the baseball space and I took it, and I can admit that it didn't feel right from the very beginning, but I just felt like I've worked too hard and I am too motivated to feel like my future will be defined by working in the Big Four or not. So I picked up and moved. I mean, Joseph and I drove a U-Haul from Las Vegas to San Diego. He helped move me in. It was a beautiful city. The team was wonderful to work with. I still talk to San Diego. The Padres have a big blogger community, so I still talk to all of them. And it gave me a lot. It taught me a lot. It taught me a lot of things I had to learn, things I thought I was good at, but I wasn't, where I needed to improve. It also taught me things that I didn't want for my life. And it was lesson upon lesson upon lesson every day. And I'm grateful for the time I had there. But I think that unfortunately people's perception of MMA for a long time was that it will always be this redheaded stepchild over here, right? Like, for lack of a better term. Yeah. It's always going to be this outlier and no one's really going to take you seriously. And I don't think that was accurate. I think it was told to me in good faith, but I don't think that it was accurate. And I don't think I necessarily needed that, but it did do a lot for me as both a professional and a human being, because it was very difficult.
And now you've been able to add another of the Big Four to the list by doing NFL Sideline. What's that for a Yankees and Giants fan growing up who was looking at Michelle Tafoya and Pam Oliver and all of these women? I mean, MLB and NFL, you've got the headshots of you on the side. We've all seen the IGs of you on the sidelines. What's that like?
Honestly, it makes me emotional, weirdly, because like, you just never feel like you're doing enough. I think when you are in front of people in any capacity, if you have a forward-facing role, you just never feel like you're doing enough. And so sometimes to hear stuff like that means a lot to me, because I'm always like, I'm not doing enough. I have to do more. But the NFL experience is by far the most tremendous opportunity I've ever had, and probably some of the most fun, because I got the phone call. The season had already started. This is my 5th season. So 5 years ago, I got a call. And it was, the UFC was still on Fox, and they were like, hey, we like what you're doing for our coverage of MMA. We'd love to give you an NFL opportunity. And I was just astounded. And it was like, I don't know, a week or so in advance, maybe 2 weeks in advance at the most. And I stood outside of Dana's office for hours waiting for him to be done with meetings so I could get his permission. I said, hey, listen, I have this opportunity. I understand if you say no, and I hope you say yes. And he did. And, it's been moving forward ever since. Essentially, they were like, we're going to give you a game. And if you do okay, and that first game was a Giants game. And a girl who used to wear an Eli Manning jersey around a college campus interviewed Eli Manning at the end of the game. And it was it was a literal dream come true. And it was a pinch me moment of like, you can actually do this. Like, you belong. It's okay. Like, stop having imposter syndrome. You're fine. And ever since then, it has been so fun. I've worked with a variety of incredible different colleagues. The women who work the sidelines were all really close, which is so beautiful because we don't have to be, but we are. And it's like Fox calls himself a family, and it really feels like the Fox family during football season for sure.
Talk to me about that piece you just mentioned there of everybody being so close and you don't have to be, because that, to me, and you know this certainly better than I do, is a piece that we don't see necessarily as much, the competitiveness, the pitted against each other with males in the space. It's usually, oh, there's a new girl here and they've got to be against each other. And I know I've talked to various other females in the space about this, and it all seems to be the same. What the Christ is that? And please dispel the idea for anyone that may still hold on to it, that like you and Laura Sanko and Heidi Androl and Charlie all walk past each other just side-eyeing, ready to use those takedowns and those early wrestling skills against one another.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say we're all really different people. And so you're not going to just hang out with, you know, every person in your class, right? When you're in grade school or high school, you're going to, you know, relate to people who have the same sort of standards for their own life or the same professionalism or whatever it might be. So we are all on a friendly basis. I mean, before Charlie's first show, she sort of messaged me a little bit. I wanted to make sure she was okay. You know, Heidi Androl and I have been friends for a long time. Laura and I work events together. And so it's definitely, it's what you make it to be.
Right.
And I think, you know, across any sport, there is certainly going to be competitiveness. I would be lying if I said I wasn't aware that every person wants to take the lead pay-per-view reporter job. I'm very well aware of that. You know what I mean? But it's the same thing. Everybody who works football is wishing they were Erin Andrews on the sidelines. They had her assignments, but it doesn't mean anything in the scheme of who you are as people. But like I said, I gravitate more towards the people who are like-minded towards me, but it doesn't mean I wish anyone else ill. So there's no like, you know, when Charlie works the show, number one, I'm happy for. Number two, I'm like so excited to have a break. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a difference between competition and combativeness and animosity amongst people. Like,
but I do think it's a weird thing that only our sport does with like reading into things so much. Like I said, I hang out with people that are like me, that have the same, you know, set of morals or whatever it is that I have. And that goes across, you know, I'm friendly with every person that works the NFL sidelines, but like, I'm not going to hang out with every person. We don't have everything in common. Most of them are moms. Most of them have things going on in their lives that are totally different than me, you know? So I do think that our sport in particular makes it this thing. Like, do you ever talk about Brendan and Anik not like hanging out? No, of course not. But it's a whole thing for women that unfortunately does a disservice to the actual work that we all do. And like I said, everybody wants every opportunity. Everybody does, across every walk of life. And I would say the same for men, but for some reason it only gets brought up for women.
Right. What's more difficult, doing one of your sort of on the move spots where we see you navigating your way through either the back of some arena or out towards the octagon, or watching Joseph fight?
Oh my God, watching Joe fight a million times. So grateful that is over. What a beautiful part of our lives. But my God, like stress. That's why I didn't watch him at the end of his career. Like I literally could not. But no, I'll memorize stuff and I don't care what fighters walking past me, what's going on. I don't care. It's fine. I mean, last week I had some guy screaming in my face as I'm talking about, you know, someone's Phil Rowe's mom's battle with cancer. So like, you know, there's always something every show, but no, watching the person you love the most in the world compete where you have no control, like the hardest thing I've ever done.
He made a little guest appearance there at the start. How have you guys navigated his retirement? Is he captain domestic now? Does he just hang at home with Benny watching movies all day? Like,
No, he's been really great. Captain Domestic, no, I had to be like, hey, here's how you do laundry. And like, you could empty the dishwasher and not tell me. But he's
The and
funny.
not tell me is the part that rings true, right? Every husband and boyfriend needs to listen to that piece and hold on to that. Just
Yeah.
do the damn thing.
Yeah.
Don't be like, hey, honey, can I have a gold star? Just do it. It's
Totally.
even more rewarding when she
Exactly.
figures out later and it's like, did you do the dishwasher?
Mm-hmm. No, he's really funny because he'll like take out the trash and be like, oh yeah, I'm the backbone of this household. But no, he's great. Anything I ask him to do, he's been like, it's been really nice to have him as a teammate, like now doing a lot more stuff that I always just handled because he was handling fighting, which is
right.
a full-time job. But no, he is obsessed with pickleball. So he does that he's made pickleball friends, and then he does it with like coaches and other fighters, all around the UFC world, other athletes actually. And then, he has some really cool stuff going on. He just was signing some contracts today. So hopefully he can,
Okay. Well, we'll have to get him on here and
let
him talk about
I'm
that
so excited
stuff.
for him, and it's going to be great. Yeah.
So talk to me about pickleball. As I said, as we were getting ready for this, it's on my list of things. What's the deal? Why is it something I should try? I see him talk about it and post about it. I see Danny Rube post about it. Like,
he's
what?
literally trying to play Danny Rube right now.
So what's the deal here? Give me the scoop.
Basically, I don't know. So during COVID, our governor kept putting out these statements of how no one was allowed to play tennis or pickleball. It was like no basketball, no this or that. And he kept saying no tennis or pickleball. And I'm like, what is pickleball? And I remember people from Las Vegas tweeting like, what the F is pickleball? Why is everybody talking about this? Like, what is he saying? So I was at Target at some point, like, a few months into the shutdown, and they had rackets and pickleballs, and they were a few dollars. I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy a Seacher racket because Joe and I like to play tennis a lot. So I bought it, and it took him like a year to finally go with me. And when he finally went, he was like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Essentially, it's like a way less hard tennis, and it's a way smaller court. It's kind of like you're standing on a ping pong table. It's like a mixture of ping pong and tennis, and it's really fun. And you can get your butt kicked by like a 75-year-old woman who like can't walk to her car without struggles, but like will kill you.
But she can hammer you on the pickleball.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's fun, and I will say that during maybe some of the tougher moments of Joe's original retirement, like when he first retired, he was still trying to navigate stuff, maybe not having the best emotional time. It was just a lot to take in. Like that part of his life is over, and what's he going to do now? That kind of stuff. I will say that pickleball, like legitimately, like really helped because you're outdoors, you're social, and you're getting athletic moves in. Like you are actually working out. So it was like all these things at once that it was fulfilling for him. So I don't play as much. This is his second round today.
Okay.
So I'll play like every few days or every couple of weeks, whatever. And I hate being coached. So someone will try to help me. I'm like, yeah, shut up. I got it. So then I just have to figure it out.
I'm going to hold on to that one and remember that one for a little bit. I've got a couple more I want to get through before I use that. I hate being coached.
Oh boy. Okay.
Get to that.
I mean, it's not like in life in general, just in certain
All
things.
Right.
Like if I'm not like immediately good at it, I get mad and then like, stop trying to help me.
All right. That's that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, what makes Maritoso your favorite treat, snack, delicacy in the world that everyone should hunt down and find?
It was literally just National Maritoso Day, and it's just the most incredibly light, delicious thing. So basically, for those who don't know, it's an Italian pastry, sort of like a brioche, and then inside is homemade cream that's whipped. I wouldn't call it whipped cream in the way that we know it. But it's just the greatest thing ever. And
like, so people understand, we're not talking like a little ribbon of cream. We're talking like a roll that's probably about this big. And then it's just a really big smear of delicious Italian cream.
The best. And I love it so much. And we don't really have them in America. So I am like a fiend in Italy, just eating them all the time. My favorite place that makes them is called Riccioli in Rome. And every morning we get espresso and a maritoso, and it just is everything my dreams are made of.
I was gonna say, I know that you guys were on vacation around the time of your birthday and
Yeah.
in Emilia Romagna. How did you keep track of how many you had? Did you
No, they don't
do a
really
running count?
sell them there. It's sort of like it's more of
It's a
like a
regional
Roman
thing?
thing. Yeah, they
Okay.
didn't really have any in Emilia Romagna, but God, the amount of bolognese and tortellini that I ate there was like incredible. And gelato, because basically that's, even though Italy is Italy, that's the food region. That's
Okay.
the region with the best food. And so, I mean, we would eat like six scoops of gelato in a day and not even think twice. Like, I do not care.
So is that your favorite place you've ever been? Is that the best destination yet? Or is there somewhere else that
I mean,
trumps that?
I for sure love Bologna, and it's definitely skyrocketed up my list. I mean, for me, I would love to actually live in Rome one day. Even if it's just temporarily, like for a few months, do like a language immersion or something. But yeah, Rome, Bologna. I really, really love Puglia. So there's a little town called Ostuni there that I am obsessed with. Really like Sardinia, but yeah, Bologna is 100%. It's off the radar, but it's a very quick train ride from like Florence and Rome. So if you are in Italy and you like food and you've never been to Bologna, go. It's a very cool scene and vibe. It's a college town and the best food in the world.
And then on the other side of that, for people that come to your town, what are 3 sort of atypical things people should do or try or visit or places to eat when they come to Vegas?
Good question. Well, places to eat. What I noticed that our friends who love food and like other fighters who come to town a lot, what they're always getting here is Japanese curry, because not a lot of other places around the country have as many high quality Japanese curry places as we do. So we like Tantan Katsuya and Curry Zen. Those are 2 really great places. I mean, I could just list you like if you like ramen, Monta Ramen, if you like pho, Side Street Pho, if you like Italian, La Strega. If you want, I don't know, there's you tell me a kind of food and I'll tell you a name. Like French porridge is great, but for activities wise, I always say in the summer, like Mount Charleston or Icebox Canyon at Red Rock. So you're outdoors. Obviously, people know about Lake Mead, but in the winter, you can ski in Las Vegas, and I highly suggest it. It's really fun. It's 45 minutes right from like the Strip. And it's great views, it's great weather, it's great runs. So yeah, highly, highly suggest that.
Are you a skier? Is this a new skill, a new trait that I didn't know?
I learned as an adult. So my brother
Okay.
learned how to snowboard one year, and because he was stationed somewhere where on Fridays, military members could get their rentals and their lift ticket for $5. So then I had taken a ski lessons once when I was like 18 and hated it. And I was like, all right, I'll try. And we were visiting friends in Colorado who are skiers. And so I'm not great. I'm like, I can do easy blacks. That's like as far as I can go in terms of the runs. I like blues. I'm more comfortable with blues, but I love skiing. I love skiing. Love it.
All right.
But I like didn't have, you have to be rich to ski as a kid. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah.
You have to like have a lot of money, and we did not. So I did not grow up skiing.
I mean, listen, I'm the like least Canadian you're gonna meet. I never played hockey. I don't ski. I don't snowboard. Winter is just like, I moved to the West Coast to get away from winter, and we've now had like the worst 5 snowfalls out here in
It's all
history.
you.
So it's just following me, and I can't get away from it. It sucks.
It's all
but
you.
it's my fault. We're gonna get back to the coaching thing, and you already clarified that it's when I'm just not good at something, I don't want people telling me how to get better. But what is your strategy for developing, critiquing yourself, your improvement style? Because I know in prepping for this and in watching stuff in the past, you had a great line in the International Fight Week little piece that they did, sort of following you for the week, of like, it's not just the fighters who are looking to evolve. So what is your evolution strategy?
I think you can just never feel safe or content. I think all of us, myself, John, Daniel, we all feel like we are earning our job every show. And I do think that that is a huge part of continuing to evolve. I also feel like my skill set that I use in football is very different than my skill set that I use in MMA and the UFC coverage. So trying to merge those two things to benefit each other has been huge. But I like to make sure I'm watching other broadcasts of other sports. How can we implement this into what we do? Even like I have pitched things from award shows before to our producers, like, hey, they did this really cool shot. Can we do something like this? Or they presented in this way. Does that work? I think just never sitting still, but it is a fine line also with like self-hate because I think when you watch yourself back, number one, I don't even know how I'm allowed on television. Like my voice, I'm sorry, what? When I hear it, I want to just run away. And sometimes I'm like, oh, my face, like it's this really fine line. I always say to be on television, you have to love yourself and hate yourself simultaneously because it's sort of what it is. And so I have to, I watch everything back, but when I do, I almost have to like remove me like from the situation in my mind and look, okay, well, did I present that as quickly as I could have, or could I have worded this better? You just always, and try to focus less on the minute things about myself that I don't like and just figure out how I can be the best broadcaster. But it's definitely a fine line with a lot of things, but you can just never assume that job is yours. You can never assume that you are the best at it. You just always, always, always have to keep working. And I think that's what has kept our team together and makes our team so great is the fact that we all sort of have that same attitude.
How important has it been for you to have multiple roles and do multiple things? So hosting, sideline reporting, doing the different shows that you do in terms of Connected or the post show or the exchange, to just sort of have that little bit of freshness at all times where it's not super repetitive, but it's all still within the same family sort of deal.
Yeah, I mean, it is invaluable to me because number one, like you said, it's not repetitive. So you always feel excited about it, but it's challenging. And my personality does not like to just feel complacent in anything that I do. So to be able to, like for instance, this weekend, I'm the prelims desk host for the Phil. Like if the fight ends early, I'm jumping in and I'm in the host role. And that's a huge pivot during live broadcast from what I'm doing, which is, live reports and then backstage interviews. So it's like I'm simultaneously wearing 3 different hats throughout the course of a broadcast, where a lot of times a reporter is a reporter for that day or night or broadcast. And so it's great for me because I also feel like it gets to show my value. I'm able to flex all the muscles that I have in terms of broadcasting. And I love it. I love the challenge. Like at Madison Square Garden, we got called to do the desk twice. And I was sprinting across the floor, taking the elevator up, running across the suites to get into the suite on time. And like, you don't have time to prepare for the desk. When you're doing
just got to roll in and do it.
Make sure my shirt's on, my mic's not falling off. I'm just trying to get there. And I love it. I love it because it's what makes our job so fun. And I think it's what makes our sport is a little bit chaotic. So it's fun when our jobs are a little bit chaotic. That's where we get like the most pleasure from being able to do things, is like we did something that not a lot of other people could do.
What else is on the career list? What are some of the other things you want to try to do? You want to try to accomplish? Like, what are some of the other hats you want to put on?
Yeah. I mean, I'll wear as many hats as possible. But I still really want to host an actual show, like a morning show, or I want to be somebody who can talk with people from all walks of life. I want to be able to interview somebody who won a Grammy and somebody who's starring in a new Netflix show and somebody who just won the World Series. Like I would love to be able to do that because my interest in storytelling and people isn't just limited to mixed martial arts or football. That's who I am as a person. I want to tell these great stories and do these great things. And so, yeah, that's 100% still up there.
So maybe to follow in the footsteps of a New York Giants legend, Michael Strahan.
Exactly.
There you go. Okay. What was the most nervous, anxious, uneasy you've ever been for an interview or a sit down or what at one of the jobs you've done? What's the one where you remember being like, oh shit, the most? Because there's always nerves. There's always a little bit of anxiety, but like, is there one that stands out of like, yeah, I was losing it?
There's two different ones. The first one that ever comes to mind anytime I think about this is I did an interview with Brock Lesnar. And prior to the interview, I had been sort of given all these different weird warnings of like, hey, like he might be really mean and be careful. And, you know,
Right.
don't mess up and you better not waste his time. And just like everyone was trying to be helpful and it was not helpful at all.
Right. Right.
And so I got in there and I did a great interview, but it could not have gone better. He was
Right.
lovely. And then I got these very kind messages from his team and everything. And so that sort of also taught me a lot in terms of nerves and what people set as your expectations of like, you can't really listen to people because maybe how they approach a situation went that way for them, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's going to be for me.
Right.
And so that really helped me. But God, I was so nervous. Like,
Everybody tells you he's going to be this big prickly menace, and you're just like,
yeah.
oh no.
And he's
And he's
also
lovely.
like an actually giant human
Yes.
being. So you're just like, what? Like, I don't know where this is going. And then I was super, super nervous. My first NFL game to interview Eli at the end. I had no prep or anything. So I went in blind to that experience. Like I was asking like, well, where can I be on the field? Where can I not be? How does this work at the end of the game? I didn't know anything. So to not only, be just trying to figure it out as you go through it, but then to interview like literally the guy whose
This
jersey
dude,
wore
right.
for years.
Yeah.
And try to not mess it up and then not know, okay, well, will they tell me when I'm done? Do I toss back? Like, these are things that people at home don't realize, like we're panicking about. Like, well, am I taking and tossing? Is it just blank? Is this tape? Is this
Right.
live? How long do I have? Well, who's going to tell me the time? Do I know the time? Do I keep my own time? So that was a lot. And those two experiences, getting through those, and I will say the generosity of the person on the other side of the microphone with me 100% like did a lot for my professional life and who I continue to strive to be because of their really kindness in speaking with me. I'm sure they could sense that I was nervous, but neither one of them treated me as anything less than a total pro.
Right. In addition to the fabulous work you do, you are also a style icon for the fabulous outfits that you wear. Have you ever, and I'm throwing it up here, borrowed any of the fabulous clothes that we see you in from week to week?
No, sir. I shop for all those clothes myself. I put them all together myself. Those live in my home. My closet is full. I donate a lot of stuff all the time. I shop pretty exclusively the sale rack or clearance. I shop off season. I have no help besides Joseph Benavides.
Who is, we have to say, who is
the Dapper
very
Scrappers.
much the Dapper Scrappers
Exactly.
and a style icon himself.
Exactly.
Once gave me shit for not getting his shoes in a photo. I took a picture of him and Brett at UFC 192 in Houston.
Sounds
and posted
accurate.
it on my IG and was just like, two of the best looking men in MMA talking about fist fighting. And he found me afterwards and was like, dude, you didn't get my shoes, because he had on like checkered Vans or leopard print Vans or something. And
leopard print.
I was like, really? This is the feedback? I call you one of the best looking men in MMA and your feedback is I missed the shoes?
That sounds very accurate. But no, we love clothes. We love fashion. Like, it's just something fun for us. And so like, we love the Met Gala every year. And the clothes are all mine. The styling is all mine. Honestly, it's very stressful. But I like to think I do a good job with it.
I mean, I gotta say that ups it even more. Like I didn't know that it was all yours. I know that you would have input.
No, people
I didn't know this was all you. I thought this was the bringing in racks and being like, what do you think about this? This is all this takes it to another level. This
I spend so much
raises the icon level here.
Yeah, no, I spend so much time trying to find stuff that fits within my budget, trying to make sure, like I said, I shop off season a lot. So right now is a great time to buy summer clothes.
Right. Is there a favorite outfit that you've worn? Is there one thing that you can think back to that you're like, yeah, that was flames?
I mean, everything. No. I mean, I really liked the suit that I designed for the Connor fight, just because at that point, not a lot of people were wearing suits, and I completely designed that, like buttons and all, even like in terms of what the belt loop would look like. And so that I really liked this outfit I wore last December for the Oliveira pay-per-view. It was like all red. Yeah, no, I sometimes I'll watch stuff back and be like, oh, that was a good outfit. I forgot I wore that.
Do things get, I mean, you would know this more than me, and I'm sure they have. Things get reworn, or are we a one use and then we're out?
No, they get reworn. I
Okay.
just try to be sneaky about
All
it.
right.
Like
Repair
separate
them.
them, whatever.
Yeah.
Put a
There you
jacket
go.
over this. Oh yeah. No, because otherwise, I mean, again, I'm not rich. Like
Right.
I gotta reuse stuff. Gotta reuse stuff.
All right. So we'll get you out of here on some quick hitters, some faster ones. They may not, you don't necessarily have to be quick with them. Just some easier fare. We covered that you are a New Yorker through and through. What's the best New York movie?
Ooh. Well, this is a weird answer, but one of my favorite movies of all time is A Bronx Tale.
Okay.
I think it's an incredible movie. There's a lot of really good lessons in there. It was starred in and directed by Robert De Niro, based on Chaz Palminteri's story. So A Bronx Tale or 61, which is also directed by Billy Crystal, and that is about the home run race between Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. So I know those aren't going to be popular answers because they're not like city, but for me, those are ones that take place in New York City that have always stayed with me.
Bronx Tale is a criminally underrated movie and a very, very good shout. I appreciate that one. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite movie? And I asked the movie thing for people that don't know. Joseph is maniacal about movies, so I'm sure it is rubbed off. I'm sure you have been subjected to many a nights on the couch watching movies.
He's watched a lot of Bravo. Sort of a trade-off. My favorite movie, if it's not A Bronx Tale, it's probably A League of Their Own.
Okay. And is there a favorite?
Mostly by Mean Girls.
All right. Fair. Is there a favorite actor, male, female, one person that, like, if they're in it, I'm going?
Oh, that is a good question. Not necessarily, but this is really random. I'll just share it with you. I have like a very random celebrity crush, which is John Leguizamo, and Joe thinks it's so great because he's like, "Oh, John Leguizamo, like I can be like that when I'm 55." Like, so no, I'm not really a big movie person.
All right.
I just am in my house. You know what I mean?
Fair. If you're not really a big movie person, what would fit that sort of pop culture, secondary thing that people, whether they're a movie person, a sports person, a music person, what fits that spot for you?
Oh my God. I don't even know. I just love a good series. So, like White Lotus is on right now, Ozark. Yeah. There's a show on Showtime about, oh my God, it's about the girls basketball team or the girls soccer team that their plane crashed. Showtime. Oh my God.
I don't know this.
Yellow Jackets.
Okay.
That show's amazing. So
I've heard good things.
A good series. But I also love trash. I live in the gutter. So I love trashy reality TV. Okay. I'm like not that, I'm not like a high level, highbrow.
I was going to say, I don't want this to sound wrong, but you're not classy like that. It's give me the,
listen, I love art, give me the real. I love fashion, but when it comes to what I digest, this is weird, but I am a very anxious person. I'm always stressed out. And so I don't like to take in things that make me feel that even more. So I don't like to watch like dramas. I don't like to watch things that make me feel like it could happen to me, or like an emotionally filling movie that will make you cry. Like, nope. Keep it on the surface. Your girl needs to go to sleep peacefully.
Fair. That sounds similar to this house. We will watch an episode of something that is, give you those chills, give you those whatevers. And it's like, where's the How I Met Your Mother that I can put on before I've got to go take the dog outside in the dark?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So I know Spice Girls over everyone, Spice Girls forever.
Truly, girl power.
But NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
Oh, I was an NSYNCer, but I love them both. As an adult, you got a lot more respect for the Backstreet Boys and for their discography. But I think NSYNC had a bit more of the bops when we were young. So I was team NSYNC, but yeah.
Okay.
I had favorites on both ends.
I was was there so everybody that picks that side then picks a individual member?
Oh yeah.
Were you a JC? Were you a Justin? Were you
I was a tie with a JC and a Justin for NSYNC, but I was AJ McLean. And then I met him a few years ago with Joe as an adult. And I was just like, man, 13-year-old Megan would be real jealous.
All right. Fair enough.
But 98 Degrees was my favorite. Just telling you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Shout out to Nick Lachey and crew.
Yeah.
What's one skill or talent that you have that would surprise people that they don't know?
God, I'm not very talented.
So I know that that's not true.
Thanks. Well, I'm obviously, I guess people know I'm a pretty good cook.
I don't know if people know that. You're not like you're underselling this here. So I was contacted to do some work for a Italian American site called American Domani. Spoke with Michael Chiesa and we were talking about, some other people that we should get involved. They had reached out about Marvin Vittori and he's like, who you got to talk to is Megan. Megan is the most Italian of all of us. She makes her own pasta, does her own thing. So when you say I'm a pretty good cook, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, this woman is making all of her own noodles, all of her own everything from scratch, from Jump Street, most weekends.
Everything, every day I make pretty much breakfast, lunch, and dinner all from scratch. Today we got salads to go because I had fighter meetings, but I make pretty much all 3 meals. And like last night I made 50 cookies from scratch for our broadcast team today, and then the technical team over the weekend to make sure everyone has some Christmas cookies. So it's we don't believe in really boxed things in our house. So I do my best to cook 3 meals a day and lot bigger meals on the weekend.
Okay. And so in that vein, and this is literally on my list because I knew we would get here. I'm in Vegas. I'm coming over to the Ben Olivi household for dinner. What are you making and what do I need to bring?
Well, you bring nothing. I always say BYOB because we are a sober household. So if you want adult beverages, we do not have them. So that's basically all I ever tell people to bring. And then I love making Italian food for my friends because a lot of times, depending on where they're from, they haven't necessarily had a homemade Italian meal. They might go to a restaurant or whatever, and it's just different, right? But a favorite thing for me to make is actually homemade lasagna. So everything like noodles, everything from scratch. And there's something about lasagna to me that is like very warm and comforting. And I just think like I used to make it for every Christmas and we have all our friends over. And people would be eating like bricks of lasagna and just cutting more and cutting more. It's kind of one of those things like you just keep going back. And yeah.
I mean, listen, you've got right here is just like going 1,000. We had lasagna last night and like just literally Costco. It was a busy day. Stick it in. We've got a bunch of stuff going on. And the Italian place that used to be down the street from our old house, that was the go-to every time. And it was the brick. And so you're speaking my language here, sister. Last one I want to let you go on. What's this week like for you? What's a typical fight week? Just walk people through. Cause I had Anik on and I was like, tell people the like process of preparing for one of these events. Your role certainly different than his.
Yeah.
A little bit different in terms of all the different angles. What's a week like this for you as you get ready for fight week?
Well, we do a lot of things as a team. So we do a lot of we just had fighter meetings today. I think we met with 15 or 16 athletes from the card. Whoever we don't meet with, I will then go talk to at the ceremonial weigh-in backstage before they get on the scale or after to make sure that I have spoken to every athlete. So I have storytelling that is directly from them. A lot of preparation. I mean, you cannot read too many articles, watch too many media days, stalk too many social media channels. It's important. It's how you get different and varied and accurate information. And then we do a lot of interviews with athletes. So basically the rest of today, so we had our fighter meetings. I'm doing this with my lovely friend Spencer. And then I have to write full scripts for an entire hour-long show on ESPN, the pre-show for the pay-per-view that we do every Friday. I'll do that. I'll make sure all my questions are ready for my Friday interviews, both on and off camera, which is a significant amount of athletes. And then Friday morning, we're at the Apex watching the fighters hit the scales. After that, I go host a show for ESPN. Then I go over to ceremonial weigh-ins. I interview people there. Usually we do a wrap-up hit for ESPN after that. Come back, write scripts for Saturday morning. People don't realize how early I show up for work. I'm the first talent in and the last talent to leave. So I get there anywhere between 10 and 11 in the morning. Fights don't start till 3. We rehearse. I am fine tuning my scripts, making sure I memorize them and making sure that I like how they sound, because that's a big thing for me,
Yep.
even though all of us write every single thing that we say, unless it's like, you know, for instance, this locker room shot is sponsored by DAV. Like, okay, I'm not writing that, but everything we write is from us. People all the time say, oh, they're telling you what to say, or they write your scripts for you. No way. It is so time consuming. And that's where the research on Monday, Tuesday really comes into play. You are digesting all of that so you can write the best version and the most up-to-date version of things as possible. But Saturdays is memorization. And then, you know, as a team, we all kind of eat together, and then we go out there, do a show, then a post show, then I do a post show. And then usually it's like In-N-Out or Roberto's Tacos on the way home, because I'm starving but exhausted all at the same time.
Nice. So before I let you get out of here, tell people where they can consume all of this wonderful hard work that you do, because it is wonderful hard work that you do.
Thanks. Well, definitely on the UFC's channels. So UFC's YouTube channel and UFC.com, Fight Pass. I'm the host of UFC Connected, award-winning UFC
UFC. 50th episode very recently.
Yes. It's really exciting. We just got renewed for a new season. And then for our broadcast, obviously ESPN Plus can keep you covered throughout the whole night. Fight Pass. There's a lot that goes on. And then I work the sidelines for UFC on Fox. For NFL on Fox, which is on Sundays, most of the season. And then, it's just it's a crazy place. My social channels, we just try to make the most and the best content that we possibly can without inundating fans and making them feel like they're drowning.
Well, you do an amazing job. As I said off the top, it has been an absolute joy to see the progression, to see you get to where you wanted to go and do all these things that I always knew you were capable of, and see you thriving. It's amazing. I appreciate you being on here. Go do some of that additional work that you have to do.
You're the best. Thanks, Spencer.
All right. I appreciate you. Thanks everybody for tuning in. For Megan, I am Spencer. This is A Conversation With. We'll see you next time.